Tension rises as fearless Biafra Deputy Prime Minister Ngozi Orubueze issues final warning to Fulani terrorists to leave Biafra land. She claims that the Nigerian government falsely labels Biafran separatists as terrorists, while reintegrating real terrorists into society. Western countries benefiting from Nigerian oil, especially from Biafran land, are accused of supporting genocide against Biafrans. Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Nigerian Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa are accused of using military force to suppress Biafran self-determination and mismanaging national resources. She further states that Nigerian military and police must leave Biafra immediately, as they are occupying a foreign land following Biafra's self-declared sovereignty. She claimed that Biafra officially declared independence in Finland on November 29, 2024, and now has its own governors and administrative structure. Countries like France, Finland, and Britain are accused of supporting Nigeria's repression by prioritizing oil deals over human rights violations. Finland is accused of unlawfully detaining Simon Ekpa, the Biafran Prime Minister, in collaboration with Nigeria, leading to further attacks on Biafrans. The Nigerian government is accused of killing and detaining Biafran activists, with many allegedly imprisoned without fair trial. The Nigerian electoral system is described as fraudulent, with imposed leaders exploiting resources, while citizens suffer from poor healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Biafrans abroad are encouraged to return and develop their homeland, while foreign governments are urged to stop supporting Nigeria's suppression of Biafra. I still remember the moment I first heard the news. It was one of those rare, heavy afternoons when the air felt charged with tension, and every word spoken seemed to vibrate with a power that I had never experienced before. I was sitting quietly in my living room, the light outside growing dim as the day turned to evening, when a recording reached my ears. In that recording, the voice of Deputy Prime Minister Ngozi Orubueze of the Biafra nation resonated with such unwavering conviction and raw emotion that it felt as though the very soul of her people was speaking directly to me. I had heard many political speeches before, but never one that carried so much personal anguish and determination in every syllable. Ngozi Orubueze, a fearless leader whose commitment to justice was evident in every word she uttered, began her address by issuing what she called a final warning. She directed this warning at a Fulani terrorist, someone she accused of trespassing and causing havoc on what she considered the sacred land of Biafra. I listened intently as her voice trembled with both anger and sadness, recounting the deep history and the suffering of the Biafran people. In her eyes, there was no compromise. The time had come for the Nigerian military and police forces to withdraw from Biafra immediately. According to her, the land was not theirs to command, but the rightful home of the indigenous Biafrans who had long been oppressed and marginalized. Throughout her passionate speech, Deputy Prime Minister Ngozi Orubueze painted a picture of injustice and betrayal. She explained that the Nigerian government, under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the direction of Nigerian Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa, had systematically misrepresented the struggle of the Biafran people. Instead of acknowledging the legitimate grievances and demands for self-determination, the Nigerian authorities chose to label every voice calling for freedom as that of a terrorist. It was a tactic, she argued, designed to delegitimize the aspirations of an entire community, while, at the same time, integrating those who were, in fact, the true perpetrators of terror into society. I could feel the weight of her words as she described this duality, the bitter irony that those who fought for freedom were branded criminals, while those responsible for the real atrocities were welcomed back into the fold. What struck me most was the manner in which she linked this internal injustice to a broader international conspiracy. She accused Western nations, nations that many in the world looked up to for championing human rights and democratic values, of turning a blind eye to the genocide unfolding on Biafran soil. According to her, countries such as France, Finland, and the United Kingdom were complicit in the oppression because they profited from Nigerian oil reserves, much of which was extracted from the lands of Biafra. In her view, these nations, seduced by the lure of oil and the wealth it brought, had forgotten their moral responsibilities. They were, in effect, trading the lives of innocent Biafrans for barrels of crude oil and the promise of economic gain. As I listened, I felt a deep sense of sorrow and anger mingling within me, for it seemed that the plight of a people was being reduced to mere numbers on a balance sheet. The recording continued with Deputy Prime Minister Ngozi Orabueze laying out a series of allegations that were both shocking and deeply personal. She recounted how the Nigerian government, with all the pomp and circumstance of a state machine, would label Biafran separatists as terrorists, while actively reintegrating individuals with a history of violence into positions of power. It was a paradox that defied logic and morality, a system rigged to maintain a status quo where power was concentrated in the hands of a few, while the vast majority suffered in silence. I found myself thinking about the countless families who had lost loved ones in the crossfire of this political drama, their stories lost amid the grand narrative of power struggles and economic exploitation. In a tone that was both accusing and sorrowful, Ngozi Orabueze spoke of how the Nigerian military and police forces were not truly protectors of the people, but rather occupiers of a land that had declared its own independence. She reminded everyone listening that Biafra had officially declared independence in Finland on November 29, 2024. This declaration, she said, was not a symbolic gesture but a practical one. Biafra now had its own governors, its own administrative structure, and a promise of self-governance that had been denied to the people for far too long. It was a moment of profound pride and defiance, a beacon of hope that signaled a new beginning for a people long robbed of their identity and autonomy. Her words took on an even more urgent tone as she called on the international community to take a stand. She denounced the actions of Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Nigerian Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa, accusing them of using military might not for the protection of citizens, but as a tool to suppress any movement toward Biafran self-determination. She did not mince words when she said that every armed vehicle, every police unit, and every security detail operating in Biafra was a symbol of occupation, an affront to the right of a people to determine their own destiny. It was not simply a matter of politics or economics, but a fundamental issue of human rights and dignity. Listening to the speech, I could not help but feel a deep connection with the speaker's pain. I imagined the long, bitter nights spent by families who had watched their homes and dreams crumble under the weight of a government that was more interested in power and profit than in the welfare of its people. Deputy Prime Minister Ngozi Orabueze recounted, in a voice filled with personal anguish, how the Nigerian electoral system was nothing more than a sham, a fraudulent exercise in which the true will of the people was subverted by manipulations, rigged ballot boxes, and stolen numbers. In her narrative, the indigenous Nigerians were left to suffer the consequences of a system that was designed to exploit them, leaving behind a trail of poverty, crumbling healthcare facilities, and an educational system that was unable to serve its purpose. Her speech took on an almost confessional quality when she spoke of the daily atrocities committed by the Nigerian state. Every time she mentioned the reintegration of individuals with violent pasts into positions of authority, it felt as if a fresh wound was being reopened, a wound that had yet to heal from decades of neglect and oppression. She described in painstaking detail how innocent men, women and children were caught in the crossfire of these politically motivated attacks. The imagery was so vivid that I could almost see the devastated communities, the streets littered with the remnants of shattered lives, and the faces of those who had lost everything. It was a narrative that brought home the harsh reality that behind every statistic was a human being whose life had been derailed by forces beyond their control. In a heartfelt plea that was both personal and universal, Ngozi Orabueze reached out to the Biafrans scattered around the world. She urged them to return to their homeland, to invest their time, their skills, and their hearts into the rebuilding of a nation that had been forsaken by its own leaders. The call was not just a political statement, it was an invitation to heal old wounds, to reclaim a heritage that had been marred by years of exploitation and neglect. As I listened, I felt a stirring of hope, a fragile but persistent hope that maybe, just maybe, the tide could be turned, and a new era of justice and self-determination could dawn for the people of Biafra. Yet the message was not without its bitter accusations. In a series of impassioned remarks, Deputy Prime Minister Ngozi Orabueze laid the blame squarely on the shoulders of the Nigerian government. She spoke of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Nigerian Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa with a mix of contempt and disappointment. According to her, these leaders were not interested in the welfare of the people. Their only concern was to hold on to power and continue a lucrative cycle of economic exploitation. Every time a new contract was signed with a Western nation, every time a barrel of oil was sent overseas, the lives of the indigenous Nigerians were devalued further. It was a vicious cycle, one that allowed the elite to prosper while the majority languished in poverty and despair. The anger in her voice was palpable when she recounted the story of how Western countries, in particular, had turned a blind eye to the atrocities committed in Biafra. She pointed to France, Finland, and the United Kingdom as examples of nations that were more interested in securing oil deals than in standing up against genocide. I remember thinking about the immense irony of the situation. Countries that prided themselves on championing human rights were, in this instance, complicit in a system that actively suppressed those very rights. The accusation was simple, yet devastating. By continuing to do business with the Nigerian state, these Western nations were, in effect, endorsing the killing and oppression of innocent people. One of the most shocking parts of the speech was when she detailed the case of Biafran Prime Minister Simon Ekpa. According to Deputy Prime Minister Ngozi Orabueze, Prime Minister Simon Ekpa had been unlawfully detained by authorities in Finland in collaboration with Nigerian operatives. This arrest was not a random act of law enforcement. It was a calculated move designed to silence a voice that dared to challenge the status quo. The detention of Prime Minister Simon Ekpa became a symbol of the international complicity in what she described as genocide, a stark reminder that the struggle of the Biafran people was not confined to the borders of Nigeria, but was a matter of global human rights. I found myself reflecting on the broader implications of her words. The narrative she wove was not just about political rebellion or territorial disputes. It was about a fundamental human struggle. It was about a community that had been robbed of its dignity and forced into a position where every step towards self-determination was met with brutal resistance. Deputy Prime Minister Ngozi Orabueze did not mince words when she declared that the presence of Nigerian military and police forces on Biafran soil was nothing short of an occupation. In her view, every armored vehicle that rolled through a Biafran town, every police checkpoint erected in the name of security, was a reminder of the injustice that had been inflicted upon her people. Her speech also took a reflective turn as she recounted the history of neglect and betrayal that had brought the Biafran people to this point. She spoke at length about the systemic issues plaguing Nigeria, a nation rich in natural resources but equally rich in corruption and mismanagement. The promises made by successive governments had crumbled under the weight of economic exploitation and political machinations. I could sense her frustration as she described how, despite the immense wealth generated by oil reserves, basic necessities such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure were sorely lacking for the ordinary citizens. It was a bitter irony that a nation so abundant in resources could allow its people to suffer so profoundly. Listening to her, I felt an overwhelming sense of injustice. She painted a vivid picture of a country where the powerful had rigged the electoral system, where ballot boxes were manipulated and votes were stolen. The system, as she described it, was designed not to reflect the will of the people, but to ensure that those already in power remained unchallenged. In such an environment, the dreams of a fair and just society were nothing more than a distant fantasy. It was this same system, she argued, that had allowed the reintegration of violent elements into positions of power, elements that were then used to suppress any genuine call for self-determination. What struck me as particularly heartbreaking was the way she spoke of the daily sacrifices made by ordinary Biafrans. She recounted stories of men, women, and children who had lost their lives simply because they dared to demand better living conditions. These were not just abstract numbers or political statistics. They were real human beings whose lives were cut short by a system that valued profit over people.
Baba Musa, the Nigerian Defense Minister. No, he doesn't tell you this. He tells you that Biafrans, we are separatists. We are terrorists. We are killing people. We are, they use all derogatory and criminal names to define us. That is what the Nigerian state do to their foreign counterparts that are part of the criminality and murder and genocide going on in Biafra territory every day. If you are a foreign state, a foreign leader, and you have any business to do with Nigerian state, you should be ashamed of yourself. And you must know that you are participating and encouraging the killing of innocent men, women, and children, not only in Nigeria, but also in the Biafra territory. You should be ashamed of yourself. And Biafra has been declared because of this genocide, because of these killings. Today, Biafra is a sovereign nation, and we must defend our territory. So I'm using this opportunity to call on any world leader that are negotiating, that is benefiting from the oil reserves of Biafra land. From today, you need to stop. You need to quit. Because you cannot continue to reap from us while the Nigerian state reintegrates non-terrorists and ship them to our land to kill us, because we are just voicing out our opinion. Because we are trying to develop our land. Because we want to make Biafra a better place. We want our people to live just the way your people live in Finland, live in Europe, live in America. That is what we aspire for our people. So if you are part of the Western country milking the oil from Nigeria, which comes mostly from Biafra land, you are part of the genocide of killing innocent Biafrans who wants to have a better life, just like you and your children are having. That is what all of us are fighting for. That is all we fight for. It is a basic right for self-determination. We have a right to rule ourselves. We do not want the criminals that are heaped on us by the Nigerian state during elections. Ballot boxes are stolen away. They go and just change all the numbers, and they impose those that we continue to help them kill innocent Biafra, to help them continue to source you, the foreign entity that is milking the resources, the oil reserves, the oil that is in Biafra land. I know you don't want to be a part of that. I know they won't tell you that, but that is exactly what the Nigerian state, headed by President Tinubu, is doing. With the defense chief, Christopher Musa, that is exactly what they do. They ask you to send them arms to fight the terrorists. There is no terrorist except the ones they engineer. The terrorists that Nigerian state tells you about are the terrorists that Nigerian state reintegrates and rehabilitates. And they ask you, Western country, to send them arms to come and help them. All they're asking for are these mercenaries that you encourage, and you allow the Nigerian state to ship them down to Nigerian state, to the Biafran state, to the Biafran government, to the Biafran nation, to indigenous Nigerians. That is where all your arms, ammunitions, businesses, alliances, that is what Nigerian President Tinubu, Christopher Musa, and all their ambassadors, that is what they do today. It's not about the people of Nigeria. It's not about the citizens. It is about maintaining power and continue to milk that oil to send to you. And Biafrans have said no. That will not continue anymore. What the Nigerian state, Nigerian government does is to silence anyone, any innocent citizen that dare to ask a question, that dare to ask, why are you milking our economic and natural resources? Why our people die in abject poverty? Our people do not have the basic health care. We do not have electricity. We do not have just regular roads, no seaport, no airport, no international airport. That is the only question that we ask the Nigerian state, just like other indigenous Nigerians. Why do you continue to milk our crude oil and send it to Europe? Why our people do not have adequate health care, no standard hospital, no standard first-class hospital, educational system. In the northern part of Nigeria, most of the schools are shut down throughout the year. And you are a foreign company, a foreign country, reaping in the blood of innocent indigenous Nigerians. Do you ask those questions? Don't you see it all over social media? You got the template, you got the news, it's everywhere. But you don't care. You are more concerned about the oil you get from Nigeria to service and build your nation. Why the indigenous Nigerians, indigenous Biafrans die every day from basic services you offer to your people. And you think you are making the world a better place? And you think you are justified in what you are doing? And when Tinubu travels, Nigerian president travels from Nigeria to go to France to get yearly checkup, you do not ask yourself, why is it that you, President Tinubu, you have a country that is rich in oil and mineral resources? You do not trust your healthcare system. Why don't you, France, Europe, why don't Britain, why don't you ask President Tinubu, why is he not getting the basic health care in his own country, Nigeria, that supplies you the oil, that you are negotiating to get the oil? Why don't you ask him that question? But he comes to France for regular yearly medical checkup, right? Or goes to Britain. I'm glad they don't come to America anymore for that. Finland, why don't you ask Nigeria, Christopher Musa, Bianca Ono, that made a report to you about our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa? Why don't you ask them why their leaders go abroad, they fly abroad for basic health care, and you are negotiating to get oil from them, right? The oil that comes from our own land, from the Biafra territory. You should be ashamed of yourself. So, I welcome all of Biafrans. We thank God today. Biafra is a sovereign nation. Biafra is a sovereign nation with all the criteria of a sovereign nation. We have formally notified Nigerian state to withdraw all their reintegrated terrorists wearing Nigerian military, police, security outfits in Biafra territory. We have also formally notified the delegitimized governors occupying Biafra territory, such as Soludo, Uzodimma, Mba, and Co., to leave Biafra territory, to leave all the government buildings in Biafra land, because it belongs to Biafra people. We have the 40 states in Biafra land. We have 40 governors in Biafra land today. These Biafran governors, they've recruited over 30,000 indigenous Biafrans that are ready to start work from day one in Biafra territory. As we speak, any military wearing Nigerian military uniform, any police wearing Nigerian police uniform, any security outfit hired by the delegitimized Southeast and South governors in Biafra territory, you are mandated to leave Biafra land. You are occupying a foreign land. We have declared our independence in Latvia, Finland on November the 29th, 2024. You are currently, Nigerian state, you are currently occupying a foreign territory. And we mandate you to leave immediately. We mandate you to leave our land immediately. You have killed our people enough. You are withdrawing our Biafran men, killing them, kidnapping them. You are using the legitimized security outfits you have, such as Ebubago, such as the one that Soludo or Operation Udogacho or whatever, the one by Peter Mba. All these security agents are illegitimate as we stand today in Biafra land, and we implore you to withdraw. Move all of them out from Biafra land. We have been exploring all the peaceful avenues to ensure that Biafra is a sovereign state. Biafra defends her territory. Biafra citizens scattered all over the world, they are eager to go home and develop their land. Give their people those basic amenities that everyone enjoys in a Western world. Nigeria has the capacity. We have the people. We have the manpower. Nigeria have some of the best doctors, nurse practitioners, nurses scattered all over the world. And now this is the time for them to go back to their motherland and offer those services to their own people and improve the quality of life of their people. So that there are people that are dying daily from abject poverty, from high blood pressure of 300 over 200, from blood sugar of 600 plus, and nobody is catering for them because the Nigerian state has not provided those services to them. That is what Biafrans all over the world want to go home this year and offer to our people. And I think it is just a fair statement. That is what we want to do. That is what we long to do. Biafrans and most indigenous Nigerians have scattered their life all over outside the Nigerian territory because of the leadership we have, the criminal leadership that reintegrates non-terrorists to protect them during elections. Elections that are rigged, elections that are manipulated, elections that other foreign world bodies have declared those elections non-credible. How long is Britain going to continue this manipulation? How long will Finland continue to listen to this criminality from the Nigerian state? How long will France continue to allow Tinubu to come to France for basic health care system? Meanwhile, this is somebody that is planning billions of dollars of contracts in oil with you, but cannot provide basic health care to his people, cannot provide basic education. Almost all part of northern Nigeria has been besieged by reintegrated terrorists brought in by President Tinubu and Christopher Musa. When they tell you there are terrorists in Nigeria, do not believe what they say. They create the safe haven for these terrorists to come into Nigeria and take over the indigenous people's home, because they can control them. They can count their numbers during election for them to continue to perpetuate themselves in power. So when you are a foreign country and you listen to the criminality of the Nigerian state, which is already a failed state, and you offer them any weapon, any resources in the name of fighting terrorism, you also is part of that criminality and terrorism. We are Biafrans. We have the right for self-determination. We have the right for self-defense. Our people are killed every day. Our people are murdered every day. Innocent men, women, and children are being murdered in Nigeria by the Nigeria, engineered by Tinubu, the Nigerian state, in partnership with Hope Uzodinma, with Chris Soludo, with Pitamba, and the rest of them. This is a calculated, systemic thing they've been doing to kill almost all males in Biafra territory, arrest them. They are scattered in different jails across Nigeria. Most of them are tagged terrorists. Just like Finland is trying to tag our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa a terrorist in defense of the Nigerian terrorist government. But we promise you, we will see how this situation with Finland and Biafra and Nigeria is going to end up. And I call on Alex to intervene and release our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa, because Finland has contributed to the killing of innocent Biafrans between November and today by taking away our Prime Minister, the head of state of the United States of Biafra, allowing the reintegrated terrorists by Christopher Musa to jump into Biafra territory and kill a lot of innocent women, children, and indigenous Biafrans, killing lots of Christians for nothing, just because Christopher Musa wants to continue to milk our oil and send it to Europe. We are calling on Finland to release our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa immediately. He has not committed any crime except fighting the Nigerian terrorists that are sent into our land to kill us and their agents. We have their agents in Biafra land that goes to point to the terrorists where Biafrans are living. And those agents, they are existing in Biafra land, and we will continue to fight them. If they come to kill us using the reintegrated terrorists, we are going to self-defend our people. We are also calling on the Nigerian government, headed by Tinubu, to release our leader Nnamdi Kanu. He has not committed any crime. The United Nations Committee on Extradition has told Nigeria to release our leader Nnamdi Kanu and compensate him. Nigerian state has refused to do that. About 2 to 3 competent law courts in Nigeria, inside Nigeria, have told President Tinubu to release Nnamdi Kanu. Till today, Nigeria refused to do that. So where is the justice? Where is making the world a better place? When you have heads of governments performing and being part of criminality to silence the freedom of speech, to silence innocent indigents that seek for their own freedom. Where is the justice in the world? Where is making the world a better place? Why the United Nations, on one hand, has told Nigeria to release our leader Nnamdi Kanu. The United Nations Secretary Guterres has said that reintegration of non-terrorists will make Nigeria a better place. It's on record because he supports that. And that is why Biafrans will continue to be grateful to President Trump and what he does to bring sanity to the world, to make the world a better place. Making the world a better place is not just from what people or what leaders say by mouth. Making the world a better place is also shown by the action you carry out as a leader. You do not make the world a better place. President Stubb of Finland, by arresting the head of state, the head of government of the United States of Biafra, incarcerating him now for almost 90 days. And you think that by taking away our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa, in your collaboration with the Nigeria terrorist state, you think we are just gonna die down, we are just gonna keep quiet, we are going home this year, and we will self-defend our people, and self-determination is our right. On that note, dear friends, we will continue to safeguard our people. Many Biafrans are languishing in different jails across Nigeria today, courtesy of Nigerian Defense Chief Christopher Musa and President Tinubu. President Tinubu has sent so many armored tanks into the Biafra land, but he will not tell the world that he is invading a sovereign nation. He sent reintegrated terrorists wearing Nigerian military, driving Nigeria armored vehicle inside Biafra land to disturb the peaceful communities of Biafran innocent men, women and children. Children passes armored tanks, armored vehicles when they go to school. Courtesy President Tinubu and Christopher Musa. What is their armored tanks doing inside Biafra land? In Finland, do you have military parading the roads of Finland? Britain, in Europe, do you have your military parading your streets? In America, do we have military parading the roads? No, we don't. But that is what Nigeria President Tinubu and Christopher Musa is doing in Biafra land today. We have their armored vehicles, we have their armored tanks with their weapons, with their AK-47, disturbing the peaceful community of Biafra lands. Why because they want to continue to kill us Christians, and they want to continue to milk our natural resources and send it over to Europe, to France, probably maybe to Finland. And then they partner with the president of these countries to arrest innocent Biafrans that are championing the cause for their people to be free. That is why our leader Nnamdi Kanu is being held today by the Nigerian government. They partner with Kenya government, and Kenya government was part of the plot to kidnap our leader Nnamdi Kanu and extradite him to Nigeria. Now Finland is doing the same thing, partnering with the Nigerian terrorist state to remove our leader, our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa. That is what they do. They collude with their globalist agenda presidents to deal with anybody that questions their power. And you think we are going to keep quiet while you continue to do your globalist agenda? No, that is not going to happen. You have to kill all of us before you can succeed with that kind of agenda in Biafra land. So we have an innocent Biafran that was arrested since November or December. He's still being held by the Nigerian state in one of the prisons inside Biafra land. I think it's in Amawabia prison. Let me get the particular name of the prison, of the police station where they're holding this innocent Biafrans. Yes, I think it's Amawabia. So this innocent Biafran was taken away by the Nigerian state. He has been locked up since November by the Nigerian police. They are holding him at I'm not going to give out his name. Yes. In around Oka, yeah. That is where they're holding this innocent Biafran. He is detailed by the DSS, Nigeria DSS is the one detailing this innocent Biafran from Oka. Oka is where the capital, hopefully, of the ex-Biafran state, where Soludo is the governor. They took this innocent Biafran from Oka police station. That is where his bail supposed to be done. And when our lawyers followed up, the crime that the Nigerian state, Soludo, accused this guy is for terrorism. They accused this innocent Biafran for terrorism. Just for saying he's a Biafran, he stands for fighting for Biafra. It is our basic right to determine who rules us. The Nigerian Tinubu government, with Christopher Musa and Soludo, they tagged this innocent Biafran a terrorist, and they put his bail at around 3 million.
This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.